Welcome to Deep Thought. Stand back and pay attention. I'm gonna tell you what, because ultimately, as y'all know, this channel is about thinking. But in order to think, you gotta really learn how to observe. I'm gonna tell you what I do with many situations, especially if I'm not sure what's going on in it, I stand back and I look and I see everything. And I was reminded of that by this gentleman. I considered him a big brother, a father figure, everything. May he rest in peace. And I think he was really training me, but he actually paid for me to give him a personal coaching session. Now, this was back in 2003, and I would just say the impact he had, my second born is named after him. But I remember, and he did everything I said to do. We were at, I mentioned I had a book stand selling books. I had a book stand, and he came, he did everything I said do. And I always appreciated that. He didn't argue. Now, this is a dude, he was probably making six figures back in 2003. He's probably, because he had two fancy cars, had been in the military, everything, right? So think about six figures in 2003 money. But he was still doing everything I said. But it was, we were at this flea market. And that's what it was. That's where my book stand was. And I remember he would just do everything I said do. And I would just have him do random stuff. And, I was just moving with spirit on what to tell him to do. And then I remember he said he was observing some stuff and everything is like slow motion to him. He was seeing a lot of stuff. He was seeing how women were responding, how people were acting, everything of that nature. And, all he did was just stand back. I'm going to tell you what, one of the things to do is to stand back. I'll give you another instance. When this young lady I had met vending, I met a lot of young ladies vending. She invited me to something that had all her co-workers, right? That had all her co-workers. It was like a picnic and, someone's backyard cookout, right? And I remember, they were drinking and everything and, partying and getting loud, but I was kind of sitting back because other than her, I didn't know anybody. And then even with her, I was like, you out with somebody, you're like, But then it was me and this other woman who were just sitting back, just watching everybody. And I was sitting back watching. I said, and then, I would eventually would talk to her again. I say, that was your boss, wasn't it? She's like, yeah. Yeah, I might have some issues next week on the job. Because she was just sitting back. I'm going to tell you what, it's a power in just kind of taking yourself out of the situation, just looking at everything, paying attention to everything, sitting back, watching. In fact, I know, I'll say a relative who always said it's scary when she's not talking and she just sit back and watch stuff, but she's very manipulative. Very dangerous individual. And I told people that too. I said, no, see that person, you want to keep her talking because when she get quiet, she's sitting back and scheming. But that's what some people do. That's what some people do. Look, I'm going to tell you what, sometimes you just got to kind of sit back, watch stuff, think about stuff, see what you're seeing. And when you're doing this, I would say don't have anything in your mind like, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Sit back and watch what they actually do. Empty your mind. I'm telling y'all some powerful stuff, so really think about what I'm saying. Empty your mind. Don't have any idea that they're going to do something good, bad, whatever. Sit back and watch what they actually do. When you do that, then you can see people for who they are. Now, it's very important you don't have a preconceived notion. And that's something, I need to talk about that. I don't have a schedule to talk about this week, so I'm not. But maybe in a couple weeks or something. Maybe next week, I don't know. But yeah, I'll talk about it next week. I'll write it down and talk about it next week. You don't want to have a preconceived notion of what can happen, You don't want to. You don't want to think. You don't want to have a bias or anything. A lot of times when people are looking at things, they have a bias already. Especially if they see a person's a certain race, certain religion, ethnic group, they already have a bias. They already looking at the archetype, thinking, "Oh, they're going to do this," but then they get shocked. Even they can even lose their mind. You know, they can suffer some cognitive dissonance. My word to trip over today. They can suffer something just, you know, because the person, they behaved the way they were. But the thing is, just let them do what they're going to do. See what they're presenting, regardless, good, bad, whatever. See what you actually see. You know, like I'll say something about myself. A lot of people say I can see right through them. That's because I don't have any bias when I look at them. You know, they don't have any bias. You know, but just sit back and watch. In fact, I don't need to do that thing about not having a preconceived notion, because y'all getting it here. Just sit back, just pay attention, stand back, don't think about it. Don't clear your mind of everything, empty your mind, practice emptying your mind. You know, don't have like, oh, they're going to do this because they dress this way or whatever. See what you see. This could be in dealing with people. Well, definitely in deal with people, situations, anything happening. And usually the situations and the people are intertwined. But see what you see. See how they're behaving. Then that will tell you everything about them, because it's not what your mind has a preconceived notion of, but rather what you actually see and what's actually happening. Because your mind will play tricks on you. Your mind will play tricks on you. And see, you're not involved. If you kind of sit back, you got to be a as objective as possible observer. I'm going to say as possible. It's still tough. But you got to say, okay, what's actually being seen here? You know, what's actually happening here? You know? Because a lot of people, I'm going to tell you what, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people, they have their biases. See, who they checking out stuff, they have their biases and everything already. But and this could be any situation, you know, it could be people, you could see some people interacting. You could see a potential mate interacting with you. Like, let me use that for an example. A lot of times we might have a bias because a person is beautiful, or you know, they're real handsome, or they got money, and we think, oh, they're supposed to be this. I've had that happen a lot of times. People say, well, I thought you were going to do this. So I was like, why don't you pay attention to what I actually do instead of what you think and I'll do, you know? But pay attention, stand back sometimes. Sometimes pull yourself out the situation and observe. What are you actually seeing? What did they actually do? What did the person actually do? What's actually happening in the situation? Not what you want to happen, not what you think will happen, what's actually happening. And then when you do that, then you can respond in the correct manner. And see, that's the key to it. How are you going to respond to that particular situation? But in order to respond to it correctly, you have to see it for what it is. You have to see that person for what it is and everything. So I want y'all to really think about that, all right? And I'll get back with y'all later. Peace and blessings.